that's not weird enough, I still think it's weird to have Exalted on a giant guy that's supposed to be the one attacking
Yes. I mean,
because
yeah, the
of our
flavor is not
preconceived
like
notions of what Exalted is.
yeah, the flavor is not it is not great here, but
I'm willing to suspend the disbelief for that cat burglar vampire, but giant legendary demon, it's a lot harder to get past that mental block.
I mean, part of the problem is just like that's part of the design direction is like, I'm sure when they're going through the file, it's like we need to have one black rare creature with exalted. So that kind of puts you into a bind because like whatever you're gonna do, unless you have some doofusy skeleton as your rare guy, is gonna have some sort of flavor disconnect. But
Well,
uh,
rare isn't rare is hard, but rare isn't as hard as legendary.
well, you can get away with just not having a mythic with exalted. Um, like you don't necessarily have to do that, but you almost certainly have to have a rare. The keyword you're refeaturing.
Right, I'm saying you can make a rare that's not mythic, make it like some servant.
Oh, sure, just to have it not be a named guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
that would be
yeah,
a lot easier to design than like if it said on the notepad make a rare exalted guy, I think I would be able to do that. If it said on the notepad like we need a legendary creature with exalted, that would be really hard.
yep. But I mean, I in a lot of the cases the hope of the stuff is just like, yep, it's some big badass demon with cool art and a cool name, and most people are just like that's what they're going to be focused on and not like the suspension of disbelief about
What
the
exalted
weirdness of
really
the
is.
mechanics and
Yeah.
the word exalted on this giant evil demon dude,
Yeah, that's fair.
etc.
Phylactery Lich.
Sweet
This is
flavor,
like the awesome casual card.
yeah, awesome casual card and sweet, definitely sweet flavor for all of you uh, old school Dungeons and Dragons aficionados out there, and yeah, I'm a fan.
Yep.
Yes,
Not really much else to
it is
say
a
about
little
it.
weird to have. It's a little weird to have uh, cards in play with tokens that aren't tied to anything. Like they don't, the artifacts don't lose the phylactery counters when the Lich dies. Which is
Right,
a
that
little
is awkward, but like it would be more awkward to say to remove them when it is.
yeah, yeah, it's another line break, in another paragraph,
Yeah,
and
and
this card's
this
already a little
text
tight
box
on text.
already, yeah.
Yeah, but I like phylactery Lich a lot. I think it's a
Yeah, it's sweet.
yep,
I have no problems with it. Public Execution.
great name for flavor.
Yes.
Cool art too. This is a
Yes.
nice one.
I actually like this card a lot. I'm pretty happy all around. Like I'm almost willing to put the home run tag on it. It's
Well, I
that
mean,
good.
it is something. I mean, it does suffer from the murder problem of like, well, this isn't like an act of sorcery or whatever, but at least the art and it's actually like the art matches kind of what's going on here.
Yeah.
So
Um Actually, looking
this
at it
card,
now, it's a little weird. I mean, I'm not gonna, nitpick that it's.
people seem pretty excited about
Yeah,
what's happening.
yeah. People are excited that he's dying.
Sure.
Wouldn't they get
Yeah, be like frightened or whatever. Let's look at the -2 -2
right?
conveniently.
Exactly. The the text is selling that they're, intimidated by this, but they seem pretty pumped up.
One of my gunslinging battles, again, not knowing the spoiler or whatever, one of my opponents made this like really aggressive alpha strike when I was at like a pretty reasonable life and um and had a pretty solid defensive board with a bunch of mana up, and I'm just like, well, I have negate in my hand, so I don't know what this guy's got planned, but I'm sure whatever it is, negate's going to be totally sweet against it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he had public execution, which would have been
Would have been.
completely bananas,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
instead he just jump attacked more or less because it got negated. But this card would have been good if I didn't have negate and didn't know about it. Would have been insane there.
Yeah.
Ifs and buts for Katie and nuts, though,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This card's sweet. Oh wow! I just noticed the mana star is in his axe.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't notice that. It's kind of actually hokey, I think, but whatever.
Yeah. Meh.
All right, Ravenous Rats.
Yeah, it is what it is. Sells what it
Very
sells.
grindy. I can see wanting to do this with Elvish Visionary to be like green's creatures draw cards and black's creatures, but you just whatever.
Yeah.
Ravenous Rats is like a little bit grindy, too grindy for my taste, but definitely in an exalted set, it has less of a chance of also just like randomly locking out 2/1s and stuff. So
Yeah.
whatever, it's simple, and you have to do some of this stuff, I guess.
Yep. Rise from the Grave. I'd much rather have a card like this than Gravedigger.
Yeah, because it doesn't loop with itself,
Right.
and it doesn't make another body, and you get the upside moments of taking your opponent's badass creature. And,
Right.
yeah, this card's totally sweet. Also, Black Zombie adds like basically just flavor text, but again, totally sweet.
Yeah, well, at P. Washington somewhere, Seattle-ish, Corset Limit, I Doombladed and then Rise from the Grave, my opponent's Baneslayer, that opponent being now WotC employee Gavin Verhey, and he immediately untapped and tried to Doomblade it. No, sir.
My Factor Fiction Sphinx got Rise from the Grave this weekend. Yeah, beat down.
It's a big game.
Yeah, yep. I like Rise from the Grave a lot. It's a sweet design.
Yep.
It's also, the promise of doing it to your opponent's stuff, though it doesn't add a lot in power level, makes the card much more popular. Which is, again, whenever you can add a ton of splash without adding a ton of power level, your designs are in the right place.
Yep. What's a Nephirox? Oh, Nephirox is the demon guy.
The demon guy, yeah. So this is supposed to be... It has Exalted because it works for the Servant or whatever.
Sure.
Just in the same way that Liliana's Spectre gets a swamp like Liliana does.
Yep. Yeah, this card's sweet.
Yeah, yep, fine.
I mean,
whatever.
A giant cockroach is a good thing. A Markov Servant... what's that card called? Markov Servant is a good thing.
Yep.
And this is kind of like both.
Yep, so...
Like, see, this is a Servant with Exalted. This makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I know. But they had to have some rare design with Exalted, so that might have just been, like, the place where it could have gotten plugged in.
Yeah.
Even though it's a little weird.
Shimian Spectre?
Not totally... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not the biggest fan of this card only because of how many words are on it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little while to get through, certainly, but casual players love the shit out of a cranial extraction.
Yeah.
This is cranial extraction every turn in Dreamland, so you can easily imagine how this is just like super resonant design with casual players.
Oh, this is the cranial extraction one. I thought this was the one that you got to cast it.
No. I mean, that's also a sweet design, but yeah, this is a very casual player friendly design.
Yeah, I like this card.
That even like Spikes can actually kind of get behind too.
Yeah.
Because actually picking up your opponent's deck and taking out what you feel like is their best stuff is a very invasive, spiky thing to do. So it's not limited just to the most casual players. So.
Yep.
Nice design.
Yep. Sign in Blood.
I'm surprised. I feel like this card's historically been like pretty dramatically underplayed in tournament level decks.
I
I'm not
agree.
really sure why that's the case. Maybe I just value this more highly than other people do.
Double Black has been historically pretty hard.
Yep. But certainly in our theoretical mono black control deck, this card.
Yep. It's the bee's knees.
Oh yeah. It's the knees. Yep.
It's a sweet card to have in limited. Also, not much else to say about it, I guess.
Yep.
It's cool.
Artwork's sweet.
Yeah, it's flavorful that it like plays both ways.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, cool. The flavor text is cool too. Okay.
Yep. No, this is a nice and very black feeling design.
Yes.
So.
Very simple,
Pretty
very
awesome.
clean. Tormented Soul. I do not like this card.
I'm a little surprised it got reprinted. I understand doing this design in the Bloodthirst set, because it obviously plays very well with Bloodthirst.
Well, it also plays well with Exalted, which is why it's here.
Yeah, I guess it's a little less explicit, because like this is obviously a 10 out of 10 in terms of enabling your Bloodthirst stuff, but this isn't necessarily the best thing to be attacking with, even if you have a board full of guys. So
right.
There's a degree of separation in processing this where it doesn't jump out at you as being like, oh, this is for Exalted in the same way that this jumps out at you as being for Bloodthirst.
For Bloodthirst. I agree. I didn't even think about that. It's so non-interactive, and without Bloodthirst, it's so awkward of a card. Like, it's hard enough to get a critical mass of Exalted cards to where you can play, the O2 for 1 successfully,
Yeah.
for example, but then to also have this card that pretty much relies on a bunch of Exalted cards. I guess you could go this turn 2 Dark Favorite or something.
Well, I also think there's something to be said for, in like core sets or whatever, to give some cards to players that are like, especially early drops when, if someone's learning the game for the first time or they're like, not super confident as a player yet, to give them some cards that are just like, this card has 1 mode. Don't think about it because
Yeah, cards that play themselves.
Right. There is definitely some merit. There's definitely a lot of merit to doing some of those designs.
I suppose.
You don't want their power levels to be particularly high, and you don't want to do a lot of them. But definitely, like, when a new player plays Tormented Soul on turn 1 and then attacks on turn 2, that player is confident that they've made the correct play.
Yeah.
And often...
I like that a lot more than, like, Juggernaut or something.
Right, well, Juggernaut also has the moment of like, well, your guy you just suicided into my 4/6 idiot, nice card.
Yeah.
And this card avoids that obviously because it's just unblockable. So I don't think you want to do a lot of it, but there is definitely merit into doing some stuff that's just like, you cannot mess this up. This card has 1 mode, and certainly a card that also accelerates you towards the end of the game. Like, it doesn't make the game drag out; it makes the game come to a conclusion. Is also good for similar reasons. So. Mm-hmm. I think doing a couple of designs like this is totally fine.
Fair enough. I hate non-interactivity that much.
Right, it's just about frequency, right? I think this is a much bigger crime. Crime's a strong word, but I dislike it a lot more with Bloodthirst because Bloodthirst is like a pretty naturally interactive keyword. Like, you attack and I can block or kill your guys or whatever, and the whole point of what makes Bloodthirst good gameplay in theory is like, well, now we're just attacking and blocking a lot more, and there's a lot more weight placed on those decisions.
Right.
So when I attack you with my, I attack you with my 2/2/2s into your 2/3, and you're like, well, does he have a giant growth in his hand, or is he just turning on it, willing to just try to bluff me? And if he eats one of my dudes, that's fine because I'm casting a Bloodthirst this turn. Is like, that's just great gameplay.
Yeah.
And it happens naturally. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the enablers that are like, well, take out that decision point. This is just a free roll, which this card has the potential to do.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's pretty interactive. It's obviously a non-interactive card in general, but I believe it is more interactable with Exalted because there's just more ways to kind of muddy it up.
Yeah.
Than it is with Bloodthirst, where it's just like, yep, your
this
Bloodthirst
is happening.
It's just on for the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Nighthawk, like everything that we've said about Giant Scorpion applies here, where it used to be the best. Yeah, it used to be the best card ever, like actual Umezawa's Jitte in that format.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this against Soren Markov was like a real debate.
Yes.
About what, you know what I mean? It's
yes.
like, this card was the nuts.
And now, I mean, it's still good. I mean, it's still very good, but it's not,
It's probably not as good as it was in Zendikar.
Yeah.
Which means that it's probably a 9 out of 10 instead of a 12 out of 10 or
right.
whatever. Yep.
Yep.
And this is also, like, insanely, it's a very simple design. Obviously, it's just all keywords, but this definitely hits all the right chords with a casual audience.
Yes.
We point to this design a lot as being an example of something simple and not overwhelming that is beloved by casual players as, inspiration for good design. This is pretty much...
It's very good. Plays well with Exalted. It's constructible. It's actually Incinerate in this format, so you can kill it.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet card.
Yep.
Sweet card, sweet. Time to rebate it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of vampires...
The King of Vampires.
Daddy's Home.
Yep.
This card's sweet.
Yes, this is, again, worth a lot more money at the time than its power level was suggested, even though this obviously showed up in some tournament level play.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, this is obviously just totally sweet. If this ends up being the linchpin of the best deck in the format, it means your metagame's probably pretty damn healthy.
Yeah.
Which is also a very, the test I use all the time is like the Ravenous Law test, which is like,
Yep.
would Ravenous Ballock be good in this format? If so, the format's healthy. If not, the format's probably not healthy. And this is sort of a similar principle. This is in one of the best decks. Probably means the games that are being played are pretty healthy and fun.
Yep.
All right.
Nothing else to say. It's sweet.
I mean, we've been around the block with this one before, so
Yep.
not a lot of context is needed. We know it's definitely reasonable for tournament level play. Just
Yep. And it is cool that it was printed with right next to Innistrad.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the timing was good because you get to have the deck be gassy for a little bit and then have this rotate out, and then it's just, if the deck's still a thing, that's fine, and if it isn't, that's fine too. It had its moment in the sun.
Yep. Velborn Ghoul.
Sure, it's wonky.
It's unique, but it's.
Is this the uncommon Swamp Smatter design?
Yeah.
Like there's the Shade at common. There's Mutilate at rare. There's Liliana at mythic, and I guess this is the uncommon, like, play a bunch of swamps in your black deck guy. So yeah, he's a good design. You had to put Can't Block on him, so he's not just like actually just moat.
Brick wall.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a totally fine design. Feels right for a ghoul and whatever.
Yep. Vile Rebirth.
So this card I actually dislike quite a bit because the zombies were in Innistrad were very strongly flavored in black as being like they're slow, shambling doofuses basically. So having they come into play tapped and all that stuff to sort of represent that they're slow and shambling, and to have like Elephant Ambush as a zombie just strikes me as being like really bizarre design.
Yeah.
The power level is obviously not particularly high, even in limited. But I just think after you spent so much of your, so much equity in Innistrad trying to paint this picture of like zombies are slow and shambly, to do this just doesn't make any sense.
Surprise!
But, yeah, whatever. It's a weird critique.
That aside, in status aside, this card's an awesome design.
No. I do like it as a.
No, Patrick. What you don't understand is exiling the creature and then making a zombie. It's like you're turning that creature into a zombie.
No. I mean, I
don't think you get it.
No.
See, zombies are the risen dead.
Yes.
Okay.
It's also possible this card could be halfway decent in the zombie mirror because you get to get someone's Gravecrawler.
Yeah, their Undying guy or their Gravecrawler.
Yeah. So it actually wouldn't surprise me if this was kind of saw a little bit of constructed play also. 1 mana make a 2/2 zombie is obviously that's the best thing the zombie deck can do. So it's in the market for that effect already.
Yeah.
Graveyard matter stuff. The graveyard stuff is really what drives a lot of the mirror match. So it wouldn't actually surprise me if this saw a little bit of play.
Yep. Speaking of constructed playable zombie decks.
Oh yeah, my man. He's back. At least another season in Innistrad, so I get another year out of him anyway.
Yeah.
Still keeping it real or whatever. It's. I guess there's some sort of philosophy shift that happened because I know when they first printed, when they were doing the articles on Innistrad, they said that we do Grizzly Bear on black very rarely. It's more of a green and a white thing to be doing.
Yeah.
And so Walking Corpse was a bit of a deviation, but by putting it in the core set, I think they're kind of signaling this is going to be a thing now.
Yeah.
We're just going to be
get used to it.
Right.
This is the new standard of practice.
Yep. So
I'm more of a fan of Mindless Null, personally.
I'm still, for the time being at least, a fan of this guy in the zombie deck. I'm still, the one tough with Gutshot being a card, the one toughness guys just kind of suck.
Yeah, they're so bad.
So even though
whenever my opponent plays a Highborn Ghoul and
right.
I'm playing Delver, I'm just ecstatic.
Yep.
I'm just thank God this isn't Blood or not a Blood Artist, Mortipod.
Right. So I still think he actually unfortunately belongs in the deck, at least the way that I've constructed it. And there's unless something crazy happens, I'm probably going to be playing zombies at the Invitational in Atlanta in 2 months.
Hmm.
And if I do play that deck, I'm willing to bet I'll still be playing 4 copies of this card. Just unless Gutshot leaves the metagame altogether, I still think you
Which I
just
don't
want to
see
be
happening.
right. Just need to be casting a 2/2.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even though this guy is a total suck ass, he's better than the alternatives.
The fact that somebody picked it up in Reddit is just too much for me.
Multiple people picked it up and read it in
Just,
Baltimore.
it's just the story, man.
Yeah, he's just telling a story.
Wit's End.
Very good in control mirrors that don't have counter spells.
Yes, and the fact that it's like this wizard about to get smashed by Nicol Bolas is pretty sweet.
The fact that there's a typo in the flavor text and
Yeah.
the word that is misspelled is pathetic is pretty bad beats.
Of all the words.
Of all words to misspell,
I guess
probably
it would have
the
been just as bad as if they misspelled arrogant.
or moron or whatever. So that's kind of a beat. But yeah, I think this card during Champions Block was probably played a little bit less than it should have been. In some, like I think the Beach House control decks probably should have been in the market for this sort of thing from time to time.
Well, like Identity Crisis saw a fair amount of play.
Right.
And I mean, that was a land of Vivids and Reflecting Pools. So basically, it was a 6-mana Wit's End.
Yep.
And like I think that we might be past the point where this is something that like control mirrors have time to do.
Well, the thing is, I think that to some extent our perspective is a little bit distorted by the last 2 years of Titans. We're used to, like, even in control mirrors, assuming that no one is, assuming there's not a ton of counterspells being played, games are still ending on turn 6 because the Titans are so overwhelming.
Yeah.
When we're not in that world anymore, it's possible that this actually just fits in kind of just fine to some decks' play patterns.
Yeah.
It's hard to speculate, but the last 2 years were especially hateful towards this effect. Not that it was legal, but had it been legal, it wouldn't have made much of an impact. But I believe that has a lot to do with Titans and less to do with like whether or not this card is just playable in the abstract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I would not be shocked if it saw play, but I don't think if it will, I don't think it's going to be for a while.
Yeah.
Zathrid Gorgon.
So this is sort of a Basara that isn't doesn't make you want to kill yourself if you're playing against it.
Right. It's also like super.
And the flavor's the nuts.
Yeah, super flavorful Medusa style.
Although in limited, it's like even though this isn't Basara, like you aren't beating this thing very often if you can't kill it.
I did at my pre-release.
All right, man. I mean,
you proud of me?
I'm sure your opponent played perfectly, and there was nothing they could have done differently to win the game. Just figured out some way to beat their Gorgon with your with your Grizzly Bear.
I had to wait forever to hit my my hexproof guy, and then put a Rancor on it, and play a bunch of Exalted guys, so that I could attack to the point where he had to block with like most of his guys, and so that my Black Knight could get through when I then put the Rancor back on that.
It still feels like something went awry at some point, even with the story you're describing, even with the optimistic retelling of history. It still feels like something went awry for your opponent at some point.
At one point, he may have blocked when my guy had 6 toughness with 5 power worth of guys, thinking it would die.
Okay, well, there we go then, I suppose.
He also prey upon this, which was kind of cool since it's got a huge butt and death touch.
Wins a lot of fights.
Yeah, it's a good fighter.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the like, I never understood the like 2/4 Gorgon that has the delayed death touch from Time Spiral or whatever.
Well, there's a lot of designs in Time Spiral that are like homages to, unbeknownst to anyone except for the 7 people in R&D who worked on that set,
Right.
and me, I guess. There's a lot of designs in that set that are homages to cards from Antiquities or Arabian Nights or Alpha or just the Dark or something like that. So it's possible there's some Gorgon in one of those sets that has a similarly stupid timing window that they decided to make an homage to, even though it's basically an inside joke that no one gets.
Right.
There's an infinite designs like that, like Goblin Skycutter. You know that's an homage to Earthbind. No, no one knows that, but it is. It does. It Earthbinds. You know what I mean? And every single design is some different version of that shit. So
Yeah.
I'm sure if you look through the annals of Antiquities, you would find some bootleg Gorgon that just had a weird timing window, and that's the way they decided to replicate it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I was just saying, like, this one is like what the lay people think of as a Gorgon. You know, the Medusa-esque,
Sure.
turning people to
No,
stone.
I mean this is an awesome, like, flavor-wise, this design's totally awesome.
Yeah. It's sweet.
There was also someone in the chat said I'd rather them keep in Royal Assassin than this. I actually think Royal Assassin is infinitely more frustrating because it's happening sooner, and it's like when it's on, it's explicitly like you can't attack with any of your guys for any value. Whereas this is like much slower and likely to like allow you to actually go forward with them at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is turning people to walls too, so it has some of the same problem. But 3 mana versus 6 mana is still a huge difference in terms of like what's the frequency of games this is coming up in.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, from a super spiky perspective, Royal Assassin's a lot easier to beat than this thing.
Because it's a 1/1.
Because, yeah, well, A, it's easier to kill, and B, like, you can just make a ton of guys while it stares at you, and then attack, like, alpha through it twice.
Yeah, I mean, Royal Assassin's also pretty shitty to put in the Exalted set, right?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Attack you with one guy.
Alright, kill it. Done?
Alright.
Yeah,
So.
it's like this thing, you know, you can't just play your hand and every guy you draw until you can attack twice, you know, and let 2 or 3 guys die and kill them, because they're preempting your attacks. But,
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Both of them are miserable grind fests, but this thing's new and has there's a sweet story to tell, so
Yeah.
rather do this.
Yep. Zombie Goliath. Moo.
Moo. Yeah. Whatever. This is what it is.
Yep.
I actually think these cards have gotten worse over the last couple of sets in terms of their powerful and limited because there's just less removal at common. So it used to be reasonable to draft decks where it's like I'm going to kill all the relevant guys and then my zombie Goliaths are going to become 2-for-1s because my opponent's just going to be left with 2/2s.
Right.
But there's so much less removal now.
And so many better creatures.
Right. That's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this card's a lot worse than it was even in like previous core sets. This card equivalents in black are not what they used to be.
Yep. You are correct.
I know, like during Odyssey Limited, I would have played the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? But it's a much different world now.
Yep. That's accurate, and that will conclude our Black Breakdown.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was
It was.
one day I'll expand my horizons a little bit and do a color other than for one of your set reviews because I believe that's also what I did with.
Is it?
What's it called? Avacyn Restored.
My bad. I didn't realize you did black with me last time. I forgot.
It's okay, man. It's totally fine.
I'm so sorry.
It's cool.
Can you ever
So is there
forgive
anything
me?
that anything design about this that you want to talk about? I mean, obviously there's not a ton on a macro level to discuss because it's a core set, so you're basically choosing your primary keyword.
Yeah, there's like some general themes with like Exalted and the cycles, you know, the allied color cycles and the flip cards like the Knights and the what's the other card that? Oh, Dark Favor and
Mhm.
yeah, like there are a bunch of those. But
But that's
besides
sort of
that,
like micro. Those are cycles or less. They're not really like
right, right, right.
large